Hi everybody, Matt and Tom back with you. Today we're on a triple header in Halifax. We've got 3 locations to look at today. First one is here, and this is Stoney Royd Cemetery. It's near enough in Siddle. It's a beautiful cemetery. It's been in use since 1860. In the past it was separated into 2 cemetery plots. One for Church of England and one for non-conformists. Unlike most cemeteries we go to, this one is still in use, but with 2 specific things to look for today. One is the church. Apparently some of it still exists that they used for the Church of England plot. I'm guessing the other one doesn't exist anymore. And then right at the top there's a bit of a lost and forgotten graveyard, which doesn't have people initially buried in Stoney Royd Cemetery. It'll make sense when we get there, I promise. So let's see if we can find this church first. So we're looking for the cemetery, which we know is a bit hidden away somewhere, and Tom has just found a nice little shelter in the woods. Fancy coming and sleeping up here. Looks alright, doesn't it? What the hell is that? Oh my goodness. Okay. So definitely it's a building of some kind, but it seems a bit unmarked. Not sure. Okay. Looks like we might have found what we were looking for. So right at the top of the cemetery, which is down at the bottom of those trees somewhere, you reach this area, and this is what I'm classing as the forgotten section, because a lot of these are gravestones and tombs of people who have been removed from other churches and graveyards in Halifax. Either the church and graveyard has gone all together, and they've moved all the bodies here, or they've moved the graveyard itself. So there are certainly 3 in this area, and what we're talking about are thousands of people being moved. Now I don't know if this is the actual section, but it does look like these have all just been brought here and placed here. You can see there's no flowers on any graves here. It's just like a forgotten area. If you look at these, it's a bit like, it generally looks like there's been an earthquake. Awesome. Look at the state. You've got open tombs. It's just impossible to think these would not have been placed like this. I'm really certain about that. So obviously you can see how these are well covered up. But if we look, the dates of these are pre-1860, so that is pre-Stoney Royd Cemetery. So I don't know if this is a cemetery from another church, if it's a cemetery that has the gravestones of, let's say, the Pelham Lane Church graveyard that have been brought here. Just don't know. So again, 1824. What a mess. So which churches are we talking about when it comes to which graveyards have been moved? First one is this one, which obviously still exists. This was called, I don't know if it's still called, the Ebenezer Primitive Church. It's at the bottom of Pelham Lane in Halifax. Now in 1905 the road was widened and the graveyard was removed. So 190 people were brought from the graveyard here. This is what that church looked like before that work was taking place, and I think you can see the graveyard, at least a bit of it at the front there. The next one is Sion Congregational Chapel. If this one looks familiar, it's because today some of it is still standing, because parts of it can still be found at Halifax bus station. Unbelievably, 1,725 people were transferred from this church into the vault under a commemorative stone at Stoney Royd in 1963. And the last of the three churches is this one, which probably won't look very familiar from here. This was called St. James's Church. This one is on North Parade in Halifax. At one point, this would have been the third oldest church in Halifax, and it was actually known as the £1 Million Church. But again, the church and the burial ground were closed and demolished, and the remains of 1,587 people were transferred here, again into that vault. So these are the three churches where the bodies were removed from the graveyards and placed into Stoney Royd Cemetery. So I'm sure it doesn't really come up clearly on the video just how many gravestones are here. You can see they are all covered up. So this one's the most noticeable tomb here, possibly just because it's open. So I don't know whether anybody is buried underneath this, but it's again, it's so covered up we don't know who this belongs to. But you can see what would have been the metal railings around the side, either from when it was in position originally here or from wherever it's come from. Some more here that we think this is where the bodies of the people removed from one of the churches, the remains are in here. It's like a big tomb, and there are some pictures here that tell us this one, the remains of 1,587 people from the burial ground of St. James's Church in Halifax. Oh yeah, interred in this vault, 1964 maybe. So they're in there. 1,587 people who at one point would have been in a graveyard, probably never expected to be moved, and now they're all in one place. I'm not sure what I think about that. This one, the remains of 1,725 people from the Sion Congregational Church, also put in this vault, 1963. Okay, so we're actually looking at best part of 3,500 people are in that tomb there. This one is a bit different. I think this is the 190 people from, let me see, Memorial of remains removed from, oh yeah, so this is the Ebenezer Primitive Methodist Chapel. So this is the one that's at the bottom of Pelham Lane. The church itself is still there, but the graveyard was removed to make way for the road. Again, it's impossible to really make anything out. But I have a feeling that these are the graves in the graveyard to the right of us as well. So, I don't know what happened. It's not that long ago. And obviously, hundreds of years of burials. We're not talking about full bodies being moved in here. But 3,500 people in one spot is, I don't know what to think about that. Okay, so we'll leave the vault. It's just, seems weird that it's up here amongst the trees, forgotten about. So we're heading to the remains of the Church of England Chapel for this burial ground. Here it is, hidden amongst the trees. Okay, so this is the remains of the chapel. As I mentioned, there were two chapels, one for the Church of England, one for the non-conformist part of the cemetery. And this one survived for quite some time, and unfortunately it got damaged by a storm, and in 2007 they had to demolish it. But the spire, as you can see, remains, and it's absolutely beautiful. A real kind of gothic feel to it. So this is a picture of the chapel in full, even though you can see there's a fence around it on this photo before they knocked this section down. I presume there isn't an entrance as such. Look at these. Some chunks of rock here. I'm guessing these would have been part of the chapel at one point. It's got the same style. So this must have been an amazing building when it was in full. And the floor, a mosaic pattern on the floor. Yeah, that's a lovely building. You just see it as you walk in towards it. You can't see it anywhere else. There's a bit of a window here. I don't know if we can get to see inside at all. So if you can see something, I can't, but that's inside. Let's see if there's anything around here. Is this part of it? Look at this. Amazing. So there's probably a lot more here at Stoney Royd Cemetery that I could go into depth about, but I thought we'd just cover two bits today. The cemetery section of the Forgotten Churches, Halifax, and this stunning tower which I've never seen before today. I'm glad we found it. So that's it for now. Take care guys, till the next video. See you soon.